I think most consumers are not even aware of other options that exist. And I think our industry does a terrible job at educating the consumer on things that maybe are alternative routes or even their options. Like I think my sister's selling her house right now, and she's working with an agent, of course, and she's talking about the process. Now, how would you describe the market right now? Just the average, is it a buyer market or a seller market right now?
It's still a seller's market in almost every county and city in America.
Yeah. Okay, so where she's at, it's a seller's market. There's less than probably 2 months of inventory in the market.
Yeah, definitely then.
She's concerned about selling her house. Now, that might surprise you, right? Because if you listen to agents, they're like, oh, it's a seller's market. Sellers are still out there, thinking they can get X versus Y. I don't think that actually describes the everyday seller who's not in tune with the market. They're concerned about selling their house. She's concerned about selling her house. She's not sure about, what concessions to offer. And again, she's in a market where there's less than 2 months of inventory. She's concerned about getting the full asking price, because what she consumes as a lawyer is about the economy, inflation, and potential recession coming. And she feels like she's already missed the peak. So she's kind of like, I'll be happy if I can kind of get anywhere close to what I think the house is worth. So there's sort of this disconnect between what consumers believe about the market, both ways, right? Good and bad, and what our industry understands.
And now she's in a vulnerable position to leave money on the table because and I'm sure you've put her with the right agent because your knowledge in the industry and your connections there, but had she not been Jimmy's sister, she maybe ends up with an agent through a friend or some scenario like that, and maybe that agent isn't deeply into what's going on and puts them in a position where they sell $30,000 less than what they could get, and it happens quick. It's like, that's when sellers, by the way, are like, wait a minute, could I have gotten more? Because we just sold in 5 seconds and we took the first offer, and now I'm hearing this other offer. Like, did I make a mistake?
Oh, yeah.
And then you see those, those studies, those surveys that have come out where it's like all these sellers have regret in the last 12 months because they're like, what just happened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think it's all intellectual until it's not. Meaning when you are thinking about selling your property and you're like considering the idea of listing, you're checking the Zestimate, you're trying to wonder, how much my home is actually worth. You're doing the math on how much you're going to net. But the moment that home hits the market, regardless of what type of market's in, it gets really emotional, really quick.
Yes.
And the thing that sellers are not prepared for is the velocity in which they have to make decisions. The being able to decide on offer A versus offer B in a matter of 24 hours, that is not an easy thing for someone who's not experienced to have to go through. And if you got an incompetent person who is basically advising you, you not only can leave money on the table, you can just make a bad decision, period.
I talk about this and look at it every single day. And when I sold a house in Connecticut in the summer, and I bought another one last summer. But when I had the one I was selling on the market, and I guess this was Q3. It wasn't in the summer. It was end of Q3. Okay, so it was towards the end of the year. And I know that the market Q3, Q4 last year was an interesting, odd market, right?
Yeah.
But I knew that intuitively, price is right.
Yeah.
Everything's good. We're gonna get, but still, within hours, I use an agent that I work with, Nicole, from the Real World podcast. If you guys know Nicole. And I'm still calling her like, hey, what are you hearing? What's going on? I turned into like your everyday seller.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody that knows what's going on. So think about somebody that doesn't have any idea what's going on, what they're going through the minute that house hits the market, like you said.
Well, I think there's a really practical takeaway for the audience who's going to be watching, whether live or on the replay, because, I'm a marketer by trade is what I do. And I always think about how do you as a team lead, as a broker, as an individual agent, how do you figure out a way to connect with the consumer where they can say, oh, this person is different? Because again, during the height of the boom, I did some napkin math, Byron. There was a period of time where there was a new realtor every 6 minutes, right?
Wow.
And so think about that for a second. And there was a period of like 12 months where we had 87,000 agents in a matter of 12 months. Like a new realtor every 6 minutes.
Just spitting out there into the driveways.
They give them a badge, give them a few signs, and get out there and start selling, right? So there was a period of time where we reached peak realtor, right? And what was interesting to me is most agents are not trained how to communicate to the consumer because they listen to other agents. And this is basic business 101. It's basic marketing 101, which is you have to sort of stop surrounding yourself with a narrative that, you hear in our industry. Our buddy Tom Toole, I loved his video on like this, the date the rate, marry the house video, which I know threw him into a fit of rage. Like you hear that stuff and on the surface as an agent, like, oh, that makes sense, but it's so tone deaf for the consumer.